1970s. I was an ag teacher, and my very first day in school, in my shop class, I taught ag mechanics, my students thought I was the substitute. And so along with that and a variety of other things, I began to build a passion about this work. I think it was a lot, and I could tell you stories, so we'll do that at the break. But I really believe that every student, regardless of who they are, should have the opportunity to experience the wonderful career and technical education programs that exist across this country that can really help them make wise career choices. And I think we undervalue the CTE system, and I want to see that changed.
Well, do you concur that we have an incredible panel after these mini introductions here? So let me give you a little bit of a preview of what we're going to do next. So each of the panelists is going to be given about 5 minutes, and I'm sure someone will tell me if we're not adhering to that time rule here, to sort of talk a little bit about the connection between their work and the issue that we're talking about here. And then after that, we're going to have two very specific sort of policy questions that we will talk about with them, and then we will open it up, if there's time left, to the audience for questions. So that's the big game plan, and I think, Catherine, you're kicking it off.
Great, thank you. So as I mentioned, what I do is to enforce federal civil rights laws, and so I want to tell you some of our enforcement stories in this area, just as a way of cementing what it is that we are doing about trying to make sure that we have more access for CTE courses and high rigor coursework for all of our students in schools. So one recent enforcement example is from a year ago in Cleveland, where the district offers just amazing STEM courses that really blow my mind, and I spent a lot of time looking at STEM course availability, and what they have in Cleveland is amazing, even as among some pretty great courses offered around the country, that they allow their students to watch live surgeries as part of their high school experience. So it's really, these really terrific course offerings for kids. But in the district, the seats were going unfilled in these courses. So they had these amazing offerings, but the 38,000 students in the district couldn't fill all the seats that they were offering. And we wanted to look at why. What we found was that the district didn't advertise the course availability in Spanish, even though 80% of the English learners in the district speak Spanish, and didn't advertise the availability of transportation to those courses, because these are not neighborhood schools, and so you have to apply, you have to be able to get there, and you also have to know that you'd be supported at the school if you elect to go. So they weren't telling the families that, we would welcome you, and we would support your children in the schools, and this is what's available to you. So good news is they now are advertising the availability of the courses in Spanish among other languages that are spoken in the district, and those seats are filled, and we're really thrilled about increased access for students in those courses. And it was a district that was trying. It was a district that had made available these really interesting courses, but hadn't then taken the extra step to make sure that that it was clearly available to all of the students who might want to participate in it in the district. So that's my story at the K-12 level. Then I also want to talk about what happens after K-12 when our girls are going on to college and committing themselves to higher education in these fields, and what can happen still to push them out. So we entered into a resolution agreement also about a year ago with a technical college in Minnesota, where a woman who was in the college and had been admitted was really excited about the instruction that she was receiving, except she was not excited about the repeated and vigorous sexual harassment that she was undergoing while she was there. And she was subject to this really quite vicious sexual harassment because girls don't belong in that field. So she didn't really belong in the technical college, according to her colleagues at the school, and also according to her professors. So again, good news is that's over, and they don't do that anymore. They've all undergone training, and they are making sure that they are advertising the availability and the welcomeness of women and the safety of all students at the school. But it was really distressing. This was, I mentioned that we resolved this a year ago, so this was 2014, where this woman was being told that she didn't belong, and the way that her peers and her faculty wanted to communicate her lack of belonging was to go after her with really vicious sexual harassment. So, the kinds of pressures that we know exist, both at the K-12 level and at the higher ed level, persist today, and we need to be vigilant about making sure that they will end and that all of our students will be welcomed at all levels. So I'm really proud of what we've been able to do in those spaces and in others, and really looking forward to continuing to partner with those of you in this room as we can make sure that we have equal access for all of our students in the courses that they want to be able to take.
I did have some slides that
I'm
we
going to
can.
make myself useful here.
I mentioned our White House initiative. There's actually 6 White House initiatives housed at the Department of Education. We work across the country with communities of color to ensure that we can help address some of the persistent gaps that we continue to see. In particular for the Hispanic community, it's really exciting to be able to work and represent one of the fastest growing minority communities in this country. Latinas are one of the fastest growing female population in the United States today, and they will represent 34% of the population growth between 2015 and 2060. That's great news, right? But then you start breaking down the access they have to the full range of STEM courses, and you've got more than 1 million Latina students that don't have access to those courses that are going to prepare them to go into college and pursue a STEM degree. And so for me, this is an important conversation because several of you are in this space, either working with public-private partnerships, the panel we had with the high schools and what they're able to leverage. So it's important for us to focus on the policy development, the policy implementation, focus on cultivating those leaders and recognizing and putting a spotlight on what's happening across our country. The slide you see before you showed what happened last fall. It marked the year where we are seeing the majority minority in our public school system. And if you break it down for the Latino community, 1 in 4 of our students are in the public school system. That's 24% of our students. And so we want to make sure that they're included in the policies, in all these reauthorizations that are coming down the pipeline, that it's reflective of the diversity, that we embrace the fact that the landscape of this country has changed and is changing, and that we're not going to go back. This is the wave of the future. You are seeing for the first time the growth of diversity in our schools. The second slide is an overview. Catherine Lehman and her team are doing amazing work to ensure that you have access to critical data that will help you assess where the equity gaps, where are those opportunity gaps in your school district. So this, for us, we took the data from the Civil Rights Data Collection, and we wanted to show a visual of those school districts that were not offering the full range of STEM courses, which is the darker shaded areas. I'm from California. There's a lot of work we got to do there. But it's an opportunity as parents, as leaders, as individuals that want to ensure that this country can compete globally, that we start with our school systems, that we start with our business leaders that can show these students and break down what does it mean to go into STEM, into the STEM field. Let's break it down as early learning. So that to me is a visual where we're able to use the data that's being put out and map our outreach strategy. If I'm in a community in California, if I'm in Silicon Valley, I want to start asking those tough questions. Are you partnering with some of the schools in your neighborhood? Can you have some of your employees go in and just talk about their journey? Talk about the importance so that we can continue to see these positive role models. But I want to see more Latinos get offered the opportunity to the full range of STEM courses. And I want to have a national dialogue about those gaps that continue to persist and how we can address them, how we can create a movement to have more sisters in science. My initiative is going to be celebrating its 25-year anniversary this year. September of 2015 marks our 25-year anniversary of this initiative. So I have an important story to tell. I want to tell the story of that Latino student. In 1990, the conversation was so negative when you talked about Latinos in education. And so I want to be able to talk about that progress that we're seeing, to talk about those unsung leaders that are really trying to make a change in their communities, but most importantly to talk about the importance of embracing diversity in this country so that when we see what's happening across the country in these communities, that we also look at what's happening in our institutions, in our school systems, that we look at what's happening in our higher ed system, and so that we can ensure that we can fill those gaps and that STEM will be an everyday conversation in households, that parents will understand the value. And